Hi everyone, it's your boy McAvoy and welcome to the next video podcast for 2.2.1 for the GCSE PE theory. Today's topic, we're going to look at part 3 of 2.2.1, which is looking at weight related conditions. Just make a jot of that as your topic title with your notes page, and make sure you've got a pen in your notes page ready as you go through this podcast. Anything that I've underlined within this presentation, it's important that you write that down, because that is potentially things that are going to be in your exam. So pause the podcast at any point and jot those points down on your note sheet in time for next lesson. Right, so by the end of this video, you should have achieved 3 things. You should be able to name the different weight related conditions. You should be able to define and tell me what the definition of each of those are. And then your more advanced outcome will be to explain the potential health risks and also how they impact on sport performance too. So, weight-related conditions. It's important if you're ever a doctor or a physio or you're assessing someone's medical condition, that you're able to classify a person's weight, and this will tell you a lot about their current health, and it will also, if you're talking on an elite performance level, enable you to then sort of help with their diet and their nutrition to get them to their optimum weight for performance. And there are 5 categories that are used to classify a person's weight, and these are used as medical conditions. So we've got the first one is being anorexic, obese, overfat, overweight and underweight. Make sure you make a jot of those down on your notes. And as I said, they are used by doctors, physios at sports teams, and it's important that they're able to do that to paint a picture of a person's current physical health. You can classify these different conditions onto a chart. If you think about the middle of the chart as somebody being of normal weight, of healthy weight, we can then look at where someone who's anorexic would be at this part of the scale. Someone who's underweight is slightly under normal. Someone who's overweight is slightly overweight for a normal person. And we've got overfat and obese. Now, obviously, being at either end of the scale is potentially very dangerous for your health, and it's important that you know where you're at so that you can then adapt your lifestyle and your diet to try and get to what should be normal weight, because being at normal weight would obviously allow you to be a lot healthier in your life. What we're going to do now, we're going to look in detail at each of these different medical conditions. But before we do that, we need to look at really what is normal. We've got normal as being in the middle, but what is normal for a human being? And the way that we can do that is by using what's called a BMI. It's a body mass index, and it will tell you what your weight is, whether it's normal, overweight or underweight. And you do this quite simply by recording your height and your weight, and then using this simple chart to work out where you would fit on there. So down the left hand side we've got our height in feet and inches, and across the top we've got our weight in kilograms. Now, me as an individual, I just grab my pen, I am 5'11", so I go from here, and my weight is 70 kilograms, which is here. So if I join those two up there, this is where I would be on a body mass index chart. So what does that mean? What does being in the white zone, yellow zone, red zone and the blue zone actually mean? So if you're in the white zone, you're either underweight or anorexic. Being fair to this, I mean you're anorexic. Being in the blue zone would mean you're either overfat or obese. In the red zone is overweight, and actually in the yellow zone, which is where I am, is being of normal weight. Okay? So it's important that you're able to use a BMI chart to calculate and plot where you should be. Take time to pause this and work out where your current weight-related condition sits onto this chart. And this is a chart that's used by many doctors, many people who are assessing somebody's medical condition. So what we're doing now is we're looking in detail at the different weight-related conditions. The first one is being anorexic. And this is a prolonged eating disorder due to loss of appetite. So if you imagine somebody who doesn't really want to eat and they've been doing it for a long time, this is going to lead to lots of weight loss and a lack of nutrition. And the pictures here can illustrate that for you. Malnutrition will mean that you're not going to have the necessary nutrients in order to be healthy, but also to perform in sport. So somebody who's not eating a lot will have reduced amounts of carbohydrates, which would mean ultimately when they're performing they have less energy, but also they may also have reduced amounts of protein, which will sort of hold back their body in repairing and growing and developing muscle mass. So take time to note down the definition of being anorexic. The next one is underweight, and this is weighing less than normal. So on a BMI chart, this is just slightly below the yellow line. Quite often boxers will train and diet to meet their weight, and sometimes that can mean they can be slightly underweight or slightly overweight. It's important that you know that diet and training can affect somebody who's underweight. Weight loss can be achieved by doing two things really: decreasing the amount of calories which you take into your body, and also increasing the amount of calories that you use up. If you combine both of those in diet and exercise, you're obviously going to lose weight as well. It's important that you get a balance of the amount of calories going in and the amount of calories that you use up, so that you're able to meet normal weight. Somebody who is underweight would tend to either have too little calories going into the body, or maybe be exercising too much in comparison to the amount of calories they have. Some sports people will go to lengths to meet their weight, and sometimes lose lots of weight very quickly by taking a drug sometimes called diuretics, and diuretics will increase urine production, but that can also have an adverse effect of causing dehydration and fatigue as well. The next one, which is above normal weight, is overweight. This is having in excess of normal. So quite often you will see lots of people in different sports and in everyday life who will be overweight, and this can be associated with somebody who overeats or a lack of exercise or being inactive. So if you have too much to eat and you don't exercise, you're obviously going to put some excess weight on your body, and it can be due to that. Some people can also be overweight but still be healthy. Being overweight doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhealthy, because in certain aspects, particularly in lots of sport, being overweight can be due to maybe having too much muscle mass. So you may have two individuals who weigh the same, but one person's got lots of muscle mass, and because of that, you would sort of think that they're unhealthy, but actually they're not. If we look at our boxer here, he's clearly overweight, but he's obviously very fit and healthy for the sport because he's actually competing within his boxing event. Being overweight can be beneficial. I mean, you have more muscle mass, which can increase your muscular strength and also increase your power, but also it can be a detriment to you because it actually slow you down and decrease your muscular endurance too. The next one, which is above being overweight, is overfat, and this is having body fat in excess of normal. Now this is a term used to describe someone who's overweight, but it's due to having a large amount of fat. So if we look at our sports people who are overweight, but it mainly have lots of muscle mass on them. So we've got this person here who will clearly weigh a lot, be above the normal weight for someone of his height, but because he's got a lot of muscle mass, that sort of explains why. Being over fat can reduce your performance, again, reduce your cardiovascular fitness and your muscular endurance, because you're then having to carry a lot more weight to exercise. So the main distinction between being overweight and over fat is someone who's over fat means they have a large amount of fat within their body. Obese, and these are people who are very over fat, so they've got even more fat within their body. This can occur due to lack of exercise and a really poor diet, and obesity is a really serious problem. It can lead to lots of illnesses, including high blood pressure, coronary heart disease, heart failure, cancer. There are a lot of associated risks, and really when somebody is obese, it's really unhealthy for them to be at that weight. Trying to exercise when you weigh that much is very difficult as well, and trying to sustain amounts of exercise for a long period of time is very difficult. So being obese is a really, really unhealthy way to be at for your body. Right, it's only a very short video, but in summary, the key points that you need to take away from this podcast are: you need to know the 5 weight-related conditions: anorexic, underweight, overweight, overfat and obese. You need to be able to define them, and they were underlined in each of the slides. And also you need to be able to link them to how they affect your health and also affect performance. Make sure you're able to use the BMI chart, so go back and use it and maybe plot where you should be. If you want to go a little bit deeper with your learning after this video, research the illnesses associated with anorexia and overfat, and have a little bit more research around that, maybe bring that to your lesson as well. Okay, thank you.